This evening we're going to continue our series that we're doing on the 12 tribes of Israel. As you've seen, we've done Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. This evening we're going to do the next two, which will be Dan and Naphtali. Now these two are not as interesting as the last two that we did, but these two have some significance in the tribes also, and we're going to see what that is. First, let's look at Genesis chapter 22, verses 17 and 18.
That in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed.
Okay, so we see all the nations are going to be blessed according to Genesis 22 through that seed. Let's first look at the tribe of Dan. Isaiah chapter 1 verses 16 and 17.
Wash you, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do well. Seek judgment. Relieve the oppressed. Judge the fatherless. Plead for the widow.
Okay, so it said to take the evil deeds out of his sight. Now, let's look at the tribe of Dan. Let's first look at the family. He was the fifth son of Jacob, born to Rachel's handmaiden Bilhah. In Genesis chapter 30, verses 1 through 3.
And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel. And he said, Am I in Elohim's stead, who hath withhold from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, Behold my handmaid Bilhah. Go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her.
Okay, so we see that Bilhah was the mother of the tribe of Dan. Okay, and the meaning of Dan, it means judge. They were the judges of Israel. That's where the judges came in from that tribe. What does it say in Jacob's blessing about the tribe of Dan in Genesis chapter 49, verses 16 and 17?
Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse's heels, so that his rider shall fall backward.
Okay, so we see why the symbols for the tribe of Dan are a snake and the scales of justice. Because one, he was supposed to be a snake by the roadside, a viper. And also the tribe of Dan was judges, so thus we have the scales of justice as one of their symbols. In the census with Dan, the first census had the tribe of Dan at 62,700, and the second census had it 64,400. Now, what did Moses' blessing say about the tribe of Dan in Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 22?
And of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's whelp. He shall leap from Bashan.
Wow, it's simple. Dan is a lion's cub, a leader. Okay, and the camp of at the Tabernacle, where was the tribe of Dan? They were on the northeast side in the very corner up here. And that was with the other two tribes. Actually, that was with the Levite families. And on the breastplate for Dan, of the high priest, the stone is a topaz or beryl. The color is actually unknown. It could have possibly been a light green, like what you might see in the bottom right there on that picture. But where was it on the breastplate? It was on the bottom right corner of the breastplate, the very last stone in the breastplate. Now, in the promised land, There was a small portion of land that included Joppa, Tel Aviv today. But the tribes failed to conquer the Philistines and the lands, and they migrated to the northernmost parts of Canaan. And you can see that in Judges chapter 18. And Dan is right there, right in the middle on the left side in the green. They're a very small portion compared to other tribes. And like I said, that is known as, today as Tel Aviv right there. The error of the judges. The tribe of Dan is reprimanded in the Song of Deborah for not joining in the battle. Judges chapter 5 verse 17.
Gildad abode beyond Jordan. Why did Dan remain in ships? Asher continued on the seashore and abode in his breaches.
Okay, so it's asking a question here in this Song of Deborah. Why didn't the tribe of Dan go out? Considering they were judges. Now, there was one important person that was from the tribe of Dan, and that was Samson. Judges chapter 13, verse 2 and verse 24.
And there was a certain man of Zohar, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and bare not. Verse 24. And the woman bare a son, and called his name Samson. And the child grew, and Yahweh blessed him.
Okay, now if you want to go in and look at the further story of Samson, you can continue reading that after Judges 13. He was a very powerful, very strong man in the tribe. Okay, now the tribe of Dan had one problem, and that was idolatry. King Jeroboam built a pagan temple in Dan. And you can see that in 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 28 and 29.
Whereupon the king took counsel, and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold, thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And he set the one in Bethel, and the other put he in Dan.
Wow, so this was a problem with the tribe of Dan. They had idolatry. Okay, and that was a stumbling block to the tribe of Dan. Furthermore, the prophet Amos included Dan in his list of idolaters. Amos chapter 8, verse 14.
They that swear by the sin of Samaria, and say, Thy God, O Dan, liveth, and the matter of Beersheba liveth, even they shall fall, and shall never rise up again.
Okay, so we see that the prophet Amos also included Dan in this list of idolaters. The tribe of Dan was known for idolatry. The last one we're going to do this evening is Naphtali. Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6.
Be strong and of good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For Yahweh thy Elohim, he it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee.
Wow, isn't that beautiful? That's a promise for us today, that he wouldn't leave us nor forsake us. It actually says that in the New Testament, which is quoted back from this scripture here. What can we learn from the tribe of Naphtali? And he was the 6th son of Jacob. He was born to Rachel's handmaiden Bilhah, like the tribe of Dan. The meaning of the name is my struggle. And we can see that in Genesis chapter 30, verses 7 and 8.
And Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, conceived again, and bare Jacob a 2nd son. And Rachel said, With great wrestling have I wrestled with my sister, and I prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. Okay,
so we see why his name meant my struggle. Because Rachel was having a struggle with her sister when it came to bearing children. In Jacob's blessing, it says in Genesis chapter 49, verse 21.
Naphtali is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words.
Okay, or it could also say beautiful words there. So we see why when in the scripture it says Naphtali is a doe or a deer, and the symbol for the tribe of Naphtali is a deer or a doe. In the census, the first census was 53,400 people for the tribe of Naphtali. The second census was 45,400 people. What's it say in Moses' blessing about the tribe of Naphtali in Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 23?
And of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of Yahweh, possess thou the east, the west, and the south.
Wow, Naphtali is abounding with favor of Yahweh. Wow, that is beautiful. Okay, where were they in the camp of the Tabernacle? Okay, and they were at the very top on the far left. You can see it in the brown there. Okay, so they were also outside the Levite families of Merari. On the breastplate of the high priest, the stone is a jasper. It's a color of a reddish brown color. You can see it on the bottom right there. And if you look at the breastplate on the top left, it is on the bottom left. I was about to say top right, but it's on the bottom left. In the promised land, they were in the hill country of Galilee. And that is right up here at the top. They're almost at the very northern part of the tribes. They were right next to Manasseh. Okay, now let's learn about the tribe of Naphtali. In the Song of Deborah, the tribe is praised for its courage. Judges chapter 5, verse 18.
Zebulun and Naphtali were a people that jeopardized their lives unto the death in the high places of the field.
Okay, so we see that the tribe of Naphtali was a courageous tribe. Now there was one famous person from the tribe of Naphtali, and that was Baruch or Barak. Okay, and you can see that in Judges chapter 4, verse 6.
And she sent and called Baruch the son of Menohah out of Kadesh Naphtali, and said unto him, Hath not Yahweh Elohim of Israel commanded, saying, Go and draw towards Mount Tabor, and take with thee 10,000 men of the children of Naphtali and of the children of Zebulun.
Okay, so we see Baruch was from that tribe of Naphtali. Now this is the tribe, Naphtali, that assisted Gideon in the battle in Judges chapter 7, verse 23.
And the men of Israel gathered themselves together out of Naphtali, and out of Asher, and out of all Manasseh, and pursued after the Midianites.
Okay, now something interesting I noticed on the map earlier was that the two tribes named here were right next to each other on the map, on the top. Okay, now also the tribe of Naphtali, they volunteered fighting men to support David against King Saul. And you can see that in 1 Chronicles chapter 12. So we see how courageous the tribe of Naphtali is. How about Messiah in the land of Naphtali? Messiah began his ministry in Galilee, fulfilling Isaiah's prophecy in Matthew chapter 4, verses 13 through 16, which is also quoted from Isaiah chapter 9, verses 1 and 2.
Okay, Matthew chapter 4, verses 13 through 16. And leaving Nazareth he came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast, in the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, The land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, by the way of the sea beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. The people which sat in darkness saw a great light, and to them which sat in the region in the shadow of death, light is sprung up.
Wow. Okay, so we see here that Messiah started his ministry and where the tribe of Naphtali is, or was, I should say, not now. Okay, that would be the end of this one. We're going to do the next 2 tribes next week, and please come back at that time. Yahweh bless.
YHWH's Learning Channel thanks you for watching this video. We hope you were edified by this content. Reach out to us with the information provided on screen, or you may click on the links to view more of our videos. Please subscribe to be notified of new uploads. Until next time, Shalom.